Ukraine Special Operations Forces have launched FP-2 drone strikes on a Russian military personnel's position in Pokrovsk city in eastern Donetsk region. Video footage of the strikes has been released in social media. Video captures the moment the Ukrainian drones intercept and target Russian positions. As a result of the strike, the ammunition stock of the 137th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Army in the village of Kamenka is destroyed. The situation remains tense in Pokrovsk, where both sides claim gaining ground. Last week, the Ukrainian army shared video of its forces entering north of Pokrovsk. Russian forces claim they now hold most of Pokrovsk, especially the part of town south of the railway line, and have been seen patrolling through areas described as ruins. Earlier, the Russian Defense Ministry released footage of Russian troops moving freely in the empty streets of south of Pokrovsk. According to the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces, there is no full encirclement of its troops, and military operations continue against infiltrators and Russian infantry groups within the city. Being the logistic hub, the strategic city of Pokrovsk has been the venue of intense fighting. Russian troops have been seeking to capture the city for a year now. Dubbed as the gateway to Donetsk by the Russian media, if captured, Pokrovsk will give Russian army access to other strategic cities in the region.
Russian forces have broken through a key point of the Ukrainian defense line north of Huliaipol, creating a rapidly expanding threat to one of Ukraine's most fortified strongholds. In response, Ukrainian forces have regrouped and shifted into position for a decisive battle that will determine the outcome of the battle for Huliaipol, Euromaidan press media outlet says. The main Russian goal in this sector is to advance north of Huliaipol. By doing so, Russian forces aim to establish a third axis of pressure and set the conditions for a potential operational encirclement by pressuring Ukrainian defenses from three directions. The decision to bypass Huliaipol from the north is driven by two key factors. First, Huliaipol serves as the largest and most fortified Ukrainian stronghold in the region. A frontal assault on the town would inevitably result in severe Russian losses, which could rapidly erode their current manpower advantage and stall the wider offensive effort. Second, capturing the area north of Huliaipol would open a corridor, enabling Russian forces to push deeper into the Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions. This approach would allow them to avoid engaging Ukraine's strongest defensive lines, increasing the likelihood of sustaining operational momentum. Euromaidan press reports, to fulfill their objective, Russian forces committed approximately 40,000 troops to secure overwhelming numerical superiority and concentrated their main effort on Uspenivka, the key Russian strongpoint on the western bank of the Yanchul River. Given the settlement's advantageous position, the only feasible Russian approach was to overpower Ukrainian positions, infiltrate the village, and establish a bridgehead. To set the conditions, Russians intensified drone operations, artillery fire, and airstrikes, with over 400 shells landing daily, according to the Ukrainian Southern Defense Forces. This sustained pressure gradually leveled fortified positions in and around Uspenivka. Ukrainian reaction proved too slow to counter the pace of developments, amplifying strain on frontline units. Seizing the opportunity, Russian assault groups exploited dense morning fog to conceal their movement, allowing them to concentrate sufficient forces at a critical point and initiate a breakthrough against the weakened Ukrainian defenses, Euromaidan press says. Following their concentrated push, Russian forces captured Uspenivka, opening a broad operational space north of Huliaipo. The scattered villages across the fields between the two rivers quickly became exposed targets for the 40,000-strong Russian reserves who flooded the area faster than Ukrainian drones could kill them. Nevertheless, Solodki and Zeleny remain holding due to their closer access to Ukrainian supply routes. With Uspenivka lost, Russian units advanced along the 15-kilometer front and penetrated up to 8 kilometers in depth. Amid the growing disarray provoked by the collapse of this key position, the Ukrainian command made a pragmatic and widely supported decision: prioritize the preservation of personnel. Rather than attempt to stabilize a rapidly expanding salient under uncertain infiltration conditions, Ukrainian forces initiated a controlled fighting withdrawal toward the next prepared defensive line. However, this decision does not imply a passive stance. The next defensive line lies along the Zarichne River, where a chain of small settlements offers favorable terrain for organizing logistics, concentrating reserves, and positioning the equipment required for a sustained defense. Simultaneously, the shift toward preparing this line has prompted Ukrainian forces to reorganize their logistical routes. As a result, units conducting the gradual fighting withdrawal east of the river are receiving increasingly stable supplies, which will slow the tempo of the Russian advance as they draw closer to the riverbank, Euromaidan press claims. Thus, preparing this line does not mean abandoning all territory east of it or awaiting Russian forces without resistance. Rather, it aims to maximize defensive effectiveness while preserving personnel in the long term. This is essential for three reasons. First, only a firm stand along the river can inflict the attrition necessary to halt the offensive. Second, this line is the most strategic position from which to prevent Russian forces from entering the Kharkiv operational area. Finally, preserving manpower, especially under constant drone pressure, is vital to maintaining the strength needed both to repel assaults on Huliaipo and prevent encirclement attempts from the north. Russian penetration north of Huliaipo has created short-term gains, but at the cost of stretching their forces into vulnerable terrain. Ukraine's organized withdrawal from the Zarichne River line is a deliberate move to preserve manpower and concentrate firepower at a more defensible position.